Democrats like to say that no one needs an AR-15 for self-defense, that no one could possibly need all 30 rounds. But when this rifle is the only thing standing between your family and a dozen angry Democrats in Klan hoods, you just might need that semi-automatic and all 30 rounds.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much. All right. Well, it's been a while since I muted that badly. So thank you. I honestly didn't even check the messages. I just heard the repeated pings. So thank you, Titan. It got me to look at the soundboard, and sure enough, that ad there, by the way, it's in case there was any doubt, election season has started. That ad was for Jerome Davidson, former NFL player, Christian pastor, and candidate for congressional representative from Arizona's 4th congressional district. It may interest Mr. Davidson to know that, well, in fact, the KKK was founded by Democrats in opposition to Republicans trying to end slavery and discrimination during Reconstruction. It's worth noting that they are now, as they have always been, strictly a conservative organization. They haven't voted for a Democrat since 20 years before he was even born. And there's a reason for that. And while the AR-15 might help him sleep at night against the thought of roving Klansmen coming to his home, never forget that when you guarantee the right of every American to bear arms, that also includes the Proud Boys, Patriot Front, and yes, the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Sleep tight. It's going to be one of those shows, I can tell. Oh, dear Lord. All right, well, that one I figured out on my own. Tonight, welcome to Jesus. Between that and the cough, it's going to be a long show. Welcome to Overtime. My name is Nicholas Lamar Souter. Tonight we find the British government in turmoil as the reign of Prime Minister Boris Johnson appears to be at an end. Johnson, the populist Prime Minister of England, won office in a landslide election on the promises of a graceful Brexit. However, in 3 years in office, he's been rocked by more scandals than any prime minister in modern history. Under accusations that he lied and misrepresented the benefits of England leaving the European Union, Britain is poised to lose Scotland and Northern Ireland over the next few years, both seeking to rejoin the Union. British food and drink exports declined by over 50%, and service exports are down an estimated $134 billion since the since the Brexit referendum in 2016, and England has lost significant power and influence over the direction of the EU and of the entire bloc. When the British Parliament objected to Johnson's no-deal split from the Union, he shut Parliament down for a month, so they couldn't debate, and so that he could just let the clock run out on any negotiated deal. This could only be done with the consent of the Queen, which, by the way, may have been illegal on both their parts, and she now claims that she consented only because he had misrepresented the situation and would not have done so if she had known the truth. Despite Britain having a quick vaccine rollout and initial success in fighting COVID, they continue to have the highest COVID deaths of any country in Europe. And this was made far worse by the realization that he was hosting COVID while he wasn't hosting. I was never clear on it's Downing Street. It seems like he'd be hosting them, but apparently he wasn't. He just attended. I am really unclear on that one. But there were parties being held on Downing Street, COVID parties, during the lockdown in violation of British laws that he himself was largely responsible for. And laws that he was obviously expecting others to follow. Johnson failed to report using Conservative Party donor funds to refurbish his Downing Street residence, resulting in a fine of $21,000. He attempted to force members of Parliament to overturn the suspension of Owen Paterson, a cabinet minister suspended for what was described as a, quote, egregious breach of lobbying rules. That seat, which had previously been held by Conservatives for almost 200 years, was subsequently lost to Liberals, and many people, in fact most, blamed the Prime Minister. Multiple sex scandals have rocked the administration, and finally a no-confidence vote was held against him on June 10th, which he narrowly beat. However, earlier this week, he admitted that he had known that Chris Pincer, Johnson's former deputy chief whip, had been accused of groping men, and that the prime minister had actually been briefed on the accusations before promoting Pincer, and he chose to do so anyway. This has led to a call for another immediate vote of no confidence in the prime minister. However, since party rules only allow you to have one such vote against the prime minister a year, Johnson is safe for at least another 11 months, having just survived his June 10th no-confidence vote. This has led to demands that he resign office. One of his strongest allies, senior cabinet minister Michael Gove, told him that he needed to resign immediately, but Johnson refused. Yesterday, 5 of his own cabinet ministers, including his finance minister and the health secretary, said that they would no longer work for him and demanded his resignation. When he refused, they each in turn resigned themselves. Johnson then fired Michael Gove for disloyalty, and there have been since a wave of resignations, over 40 in the last 24 hours. This has crippled the administration from all appearances beyond any and all repair. His government is at this point utterly decimated. Nobody wants to work for him, and it's the single greatest number of mass resignations I've heard of in any country. Certainly beats the Friday night massacre Nixon managed to pull off. 40 in a 24-hour period. It's absolutely stunning. It's impossible to imagine. Now, he has said that excuse me, he has said that the UK is, in fact, facing many difficult crises, and because of this, he will not resign. It's not the time for him to resign. Apparently, they can only overcome these crises with him at the helm. Apparently, no replacement, which his party would get to choose, could possibly do the job, so he is refusing to resign. It seems utterly impossible that he could function. He can't replace any of these. I think the entire parliament is going to come to a grinding halt and will refuse to work with him. And despite that, he has said he will hold on to his the prime ministership at all costs. He may have a problem there because they are now considering revisiting the rules and offering up a second swing at a no-confidence vote. At this point, it appears that that's going to be, in fact, what they do. And despite the fact that the current rules say you can only vote for have a vote of no confidence once a year for a prime minister, he's about to get his second one. In Fulton County, Georgia, a judge has ordered Rudy Giuliani, Senator Lindsey Graham, John Eastman, Jackie Dason, it's got to be Dason, and Jenna Ellis, as well as other members of Trump's legal team, to testify before a special grand jury about the former president's role in attempting to overthrow Georgia's 2020 election results. The probe centers around a phone call, which we have played on a couple of occasions here, and which was highlighted by the January 6th committee, in which Trump demanded that Georgian officials, quote, find just enough votes for him to win, and appeared to threaten them with legal action, such as election fraud, if they failed to do so. Lindsey Graham has further been implicated in regards to at least two of his own calls to the Georgia Secretary of State, in which he purportedly questioned the secretary about examining absentee ballots in order to explore the possibility of a, quote, more favorable outcome, including a conversation that the Secretary of State said, quote, sure looked like he was looking for a way to toss out legally cast ballots. Graham has said he will refuse to cooperate with the investigation in any way and called the claims ridiculous. 2 days ago, on Independence Day, July 4th, a man opened fire on a parade in Highland Park, Illinois. The suspect, 21-year-old Robert E. Crimo III, purportedly shot and killed at least 7 people, wounding as many as 30 more. He was known to police officers who had come to his house twice in the last 3 years, including to seize 16 knives, a dagger, and a sword, all of which he had obtained illegally, after a family member had reported him for promising that he would, quote, kill everyone. It's worth noting that he did not use an axe to commit mass murder or a knife or a baseball bat. Instead, he used a high-powered rifle, one of several guns he was able to legally obtain, despite the red flags on his record. It may be that mass murders are a mental health issue, but that doesn't seem to stop the NRA from trying to make it all but impossible to keep guns out of the hands even of the mentally ill, or to track weapons once they're used in a crime. In this case, the red flag law should have stopped him from obtaining the rifle, but it was not triggered because there was, quote, insufficient basis to establish a clear and present danger in selling him the firearm, in large part because apparently they had explicitly asked Crimo if he, quote, intended to harm himself or others with the weapon, and he responded rather convincingly, apparently, quote, no. Crimo's father, Bob Crimo, I'm going to have to pick one and go with it, sponsored his son's gun permit. He is Bob Crimo is a small business owner, recently lost his mayoral bid when he challenged incumbent Nancy Rottering. Oh, stand by one. I just got to... Yep, there we go. When he challenged incumbent Nancy Rottering. Yeah. Let's see. Apologies for that. Yeah, my suspicion is he's probably not going to run again. It would have been interesting if he was currently running. The city's first female mayor, Crimo, said that he was, quote, running as a person for the people, and that this was his way of giving back to the community who had been so supportive of him. Just 2 hours ago, we learned that Crimo Sr. was able to recover the knives and return them to the home after claiming that they were in fact not his son's, but his, and that he bought his son his first gun. When asked why he did this and why he sponsored his son's gun permit, he replied, quote, it was perfectly legal. 2 police officers were shot outside of the Philadelphia Art Museum on the 4th during a fireworks display, and multiple people were injured in the ensuing stampede as the crowd really, I think, probably rightly assumed that they were under fire. And fled what they thought was an active shooter incident. Right now, we don't know who shot the officers or why. Virginia police believe that they stopped a mass shooting incident when they received a tip of a planned attack for this 4th of July week, actually specifically for the 4th of July, and subsequently arrested 2 suspects and seized 2 assault rifles and 1 handgun and over 200 rounds of ammunition. In Japan and Singapore last year, there was less than 1 in 100th of a death. Less than 1/100th of a death. Weird, I know. Work with me. Less than 1/100th of a death per 100,000 people from handguns. From guns of any kind, actually. Similar numbers in the UK. The Netherlands lost 1 person per 100,000 to handgun or to gun violence, as did Ireland and Taiwan, Australia, and Denmark. Each 1 person per 100,000 lost to gun violence. dear Lord. So clearly, I'm not where I should be tonight. What is it? Australia, Germany, Italy, New Zealand, Sweden, Norway each lost one person in 100,000 to gun violence, while Switzerland, France, Finland, and Canada lost a whopping 2 people out of every 100,000 to gun violence. Argentina and Paraguay lost 5 people each for every 100,000 citizens. The Philippines, racked with gang violence, which is pretty horrific if you haven't been following that, hit a whopping 8 people dead from gun violence out of every 100,000 citizens. South Africa hit the upper echelons of this at 10 deaths per 100,000, while Mexico, in the grip of violent drug lords trying to seize the country, a threat so terrible it is spilling into the U.S., for which we must build a huge border wall to protect our citizens, hit 10 deaths in 100,000. Actually, sorry, no, my bad. Fake news. They hit 11. That number is still better than their neighbors to the north, who lost an average of 12.21 citizens per 100,000 a year to gun violence. To those who think that the cost of that violence and the suffering from everybody having a gun is worth it because, hey, it's the only thing that keeps the government from turning on its people. The government we elected, I may add. To them, I would remind you that January 6th, on January 6th, the President of the United States nearly overthrew an election and installed himself as ruler without firing a single shot. Any guns we had were useless. That is overtime for July 6, 2022. Let me quickly check the live chat and see how people are doing. Thank you all for joining us. I think it's going to be a reasonably short show. Wanted to... those parties with his first wife say, I don't know. I don't know. They'll have to send the clowns in to get... Yeah, and we... in time and free fall, yes. In time we're still doing better than the British government, but that's a low bar right now. We're doing better than our government, which is basically as low a bar. So please don't take that as an anti-UK joke. No sound. See what happens when I'm not there yet. Thanks, Dorito. Thank you. I have to learn to stop reading the live chat. The worst trolls are the one that actually follow the show. Just moving his mouth. Yeah, we'll have to, yeah. At least I started on time. You see,